once you change your mind, make sure you change your environment. Because if you stay in that same environment despite changing your mind, you're either going to revert back, or you're going to try to pull that environment into that new mindset.
Welcome to the What's a Revolution show. So for men and the people who love them, we'll discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves, where people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I am your host, Dr. Charles Corporal, and I am joined by my good friend and dear friend as we move through this wonderful edition of Revolt and Evolve. My dude, my partner in crime, the Dr. Travis Batts.
Brother, thank you for that beautiful introduction. And I am delighted to be here. Thanks for having me again.
It is always a pleasure to be in space with you, my dear brother, and my friend, like dear brother and friend. As we were just, specifically talking in the green room, like it's been a minute, man. We did a lot of shows together last year, and I've kind of been, putting this season out. I've been dripping this season out, and you've kind of been doing your thing. And at the recording of this episode, Dr. Batts will have 2 weeks before he leaves the military. Retire.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So let's give Dr. Batts a round of applause for his service to our country. How many years, Dr. Batts?
21 and a half. 21 and a half years.
21 and a half years in the Air Force, if I'm correct.
In the Air Force. That's right.
That's right. He don't like to say that he's one of the, he don't like for me to give him platitudes. So I won't give him any platitudes. You all know what I'm saying, Revolutionaries, is that I don't care. Dr. Batts is one of the best cardiologists in the world. All right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't care. Look, you but 2 weeks away. What they going to do? I heard you said on the What's a Revolution show that Dr. Corporal said you were one of the best cardiologists in the world. That's what I think. That's Dr. Corporal's opinion, and my opinion matters on my show. So,
that's true.
That's right. Everybody else, you know what? You know where to go. So, so Dr. Batts, has been a minute, man. Tell the Revolutionaries where you've been. What you been up to?
No, again, like I said, I just, thanks for having me. And it's been a minute, but we've stayed connected, just not as much, because we both, whenever we wrote and evolve, you start to pick up new things, drop new things off. And, really between navigating what family looks like, navigating what the new normal is going to be, navigating, a new career path. Those are all things that, do take some time, and in doing so, I've met some new friends and really developed some new products. I'm looking forward to rolling those out and really hitting the ground running over the next 6 weeks before I hop back into the workplace again. But that's really been it in totality, just doing those and making sure that the family's good. And when I say the family, I mean, of course, my immediate family, but also the collective family, the family that I've developed through your What's Your Revolution podcast. I've gotten some people that know me, that know you, that called me to talk about different things, and that's been a cool experience.
Big.
And and then of course the family in my community, making sure that the track team that I work with, the kids are doing okay. We were able to get, I'll say, a blessing from an outside source, where if the kids on my team take this free nutrition course online, the club will get some benefits. I'll say it that way. And so that's been a wonderful experience to have the connections that I have now start to trickle down to the people that I care about and the communities that I care about. So I know that was a long answer, but it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. The only downside is, we hadn't got to connect as much as I always love to do. But I think we're off to a good start.
Yeah, revolutionaries. Put that simply, is basically Dr. Basti said, "I'm putting you down. I got other
Here we
priorities,
go. Here
other
we go.
other people. I have deprioritized you, Dr. Gorpru.
No,
I'm a celebrity now. That's what it is.
you
Your
know
people
what?
call my people when you try
You know what? I'm
together.
not on. I already sent you the text message stream where, hey, how you doing? What's up? Weekly check in. Ghost. It is quiet. It is crickets.
Oh,
I'm
no,
seeing tumbleweeds come across the feed. I'm
oh,
like,
man.
okay,
I
I
hear
see what it is. Then I'm seeing them popping up, shining, doing this, doing that. So okay, it's all good though. I don't take it no kind of way. That just means my brother is doing it. He doing it so big that he can't even send me a thumbs up emoji. That's how you know you doing it big. When you don't even get the thumbs up. Man, I'm like, okay, it's all good though.
Well, that's you're funny. You're funny. Look, I'm glad that we started this season together, and we're going to end this season.
Yeah.
This is the end of this season. We've had some amazing guests on the show. I mean, like literally amazing guests, from Mark Berger to Dr. Keisha Hammond to Dr. Daphne
Mm-hmm.
Watkins to my man, the money man, with
Yeah.
the 5-year millionaire. I mean, we have had some amazing guests on the show this year to really illuminate what their revolutions are and how they've been able to benefit. And I think about my good friend, Dr. Stacey Edwards, who, came on and talked about how he's moving literature with his daughters, right? And really giving them Black history and actually motivations to move his daughter and move the world. I mean, I just think about all of the great people that have come on the show this season. I'm not only excited about that, but I'm also excited about where we're going to go, Dr. Batts. It's extremely important as I sometimes think about what's next for me and what's next for the show. I get to talk to you. I get to talk to my other folks, and they were like, "Look, you got to keep this going. This revolution is amazing." And at the recording of the show, I spent time with my family in DC. My uncle Bubba, Dr. George Reed, was celebrating his 80th birthday, and yeah, it's an amazing thing to take my 84-year-old mother to see her 80-year-old cousin and to see them come together. But I remember telling my family members, "Hey, I've got a podcast," and they're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, we don't spend enough time together." And then when I told them what the podcast was, they were like, "Wow." And my cousin Keenan, who I've probably seen since since we were at least adolescents, she was like, "Wow, that is the most thought-provoking question of one's life. Like, and let me tell you what my revolution is." And I was like, "Wow." Every time, Doc, that I think that this has a sunset, a twilight, the moon begins to rise, the sun begins to rise again and say, "Hey, this is still poignant. This is still relevant. This is still the message that needs to be out here," especially in these times, dear brother. There are a
Right.
lot of people out there that are talking about this is my revolution. And so it's important for us to do that. And this season illuminated that. And I'm excited about what the next season and seasons to come have to offer.
And I agree. I mean, I think, we've had some conversations where, and me, I'm a friend. I just take in what you say, and not that anything's wrong with putting the car in neutral, but I was just on for the ride. And in our conversations, like, I've done this and I've done that. And it's almost like I said, man, I want to tell them, hey, man, you can't stop, can't stop. You can't stop this. Right. And part of it is the people that reach out to me that I know otherwise, and I'm going to say this, and people that otherwise would not go and work on the mental health component, not the disease component that I talk about on my show a lot of times, but how do you rebuild and reconstruct, and how do you do that? I'm not equipped to do that. And your show provides the guests that give you that. If you go to the website, they can pull the framework. They can have as we say in football, a playbook on how to do that. And I think that for me, that's been the most powerful thing, to see people who, will look at something I do or see a reel or see something and then go to the show and just start scrolling and picking different shows and really just being fulfilled through that. So yeah, stopping ain't an option. Now you can slow it down, but you can't stop. I mean, this is a movement. This wasn't, this moment in time where hey, let me do this for a while and see if I could do it. No, you've created a movement, and I think that, by doing so, it's a necessary piece for all of us. I mean, I've directly benefited from, and I told you this, one of your guests. I mean, I got the book right here, and I'm working through the book because what I'm realizing is the statement of saying self-care isn't selfish was hard for me to say. Still hard for me to say.
You have said that a number of times. Drop down on that, Doc. Like self-care, is not selfish, right?
And this isn't a black or white but it is a male, I think. Now this is my opinion, and I'm probably gonna catch some flack, but this is a male female thing. And so when I look back over, and we'll use CDC data, we know that women live longer than men, right?
Yeah.
And the question is why, right? We know that the prevalence of heart disease, prevalence meaning how likely it is to occur, is the same. And women are actually more likely to die from a heart attack than men are, but men are more likely to have a heart attack. So I'm like, man, something's not adding up. But when you look at outlets to stress and safe places to share and all these things that as a man prior to coming on the show, I really didn't have a great way to do it. Like I have friends and I got friends. It's like brothers. I got fraternity brothers, but those aren't really conversations that we have. Right. And outside of the barbershop, and as you can see, I haven't needed to go there for a while. There really hasn't been an outlet. And so when I looked at what am I truly doing for self-care? And even when I would set things up, love my family to life, it would be on the calendar. It would be on the schedule. And before I know it, something else gets put in there and I get told, hey, I'm going to need you to do X, Y, Z. And what do I do as a man whose job it is to protect, provide, and love? Okay, I'll push my self-care component to the back burner. Oh, I won't go to this thing that's really helping me. Heck, I've had physical therapy appointments that I couldn't make. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I would not trade my environment for anything. And I was saying this is a first world complaint, but it's not, right? Self-care needs to occur at every level. And it was that the book that Dr. Hammond wrote, and I'm halfway through it, really just it empowered me to say, no, I'm not going to do X, not in a mean way. We can figure some other way around it, but I'm not sacrificing my self-care for the benefit of other people, the benefit knowing that the next time I show up for them, it won't be the best version of myself because I didn't fix me first. And the book really gives you the ability to say that and not feel guilty about it. Like there's this guilt that as I was talking to other guys, either in my fantasy football group or just that I interact with, that we don't really know how to. And you told me this, you said, and I said, well, what's the main thing you're going to do in 2025? You said, I'm going to really practice, one thing. And I said, what is that? Saying no. What?
Not being a people pleaser.
Yeah. And
that's my self-care.
Yeah. And I'm not there yet. I still find ways to get one place, wake up early, get another place, still people asking and just learning that skill. But I think, heck, if you taught a class on how to say no, I'm gonna be in the front row taking notes because I don't do a great job of that.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. It's interesting because I was watching a reel today and Shaq was talking about how, and I don't agree with this. Like I literally don't agree with Shaq. Shaq was like, I don't tell my woman that I'm having a bad day because I'm provider, protector, love. And so, she's emotional and caring and it's my job to provide and protect. And so if I tell her I'm having a bad day, now it's two people having a bad day. And that's okay, Shaq, right? That's okay that two people can have a bad day together. That is okay. When a man and a woman when people come together and they're having bad days together, they can work through those bad days together, and that's the part of community that we don't talk about is that I need to be able to call my brother and be like, yo, I'm having a bad day. And if that brother says I'm having a bad day, okay, well, look, we're having bad days together. How do we work through this? together. And if I can't go to my partner and say to her, babe, I love you, but I'm having a bad day, and she can't console me, she's not my person. And if I
Mm.
cannot actually say to her, I'm having a bad day, I'm not her person. Because that's what, in my mind, right, that's what partnership is. That's what healthy partnership is. Because you and I both know we take on the world. And this shit is hard, right?
Yeah.
Adulting is hard. Taking care of a, an aging parent is hard. Leading teams is hard. Trying to find healthy communities is hard. And if you don't have a person in your life that, that you can lay in the bed with and lay down your burdens with, you will die. You will literally die. You and I talk at length jokingly, but the importance of Mrs. Batts in your life, what she
Yes.
brings to you, the support that she gives you, the children that she's helping you raise, all of those things. I will hypothesize and hopefully back this up that the most successful men that I know have partners that support them and love them. And for me, being able to be in partnership with a woman that loves me, that I can do my most favorite thing with, right? And Revolutionaries, it's not what you think.
I was saying, where is he go? Where is he taking this car? Because I'm in this. I'm already in the passenger seat. So okay,
Yeah.
keep driving. I'm like, hold on now.
You know what my favorite thing to do is? It's cuddle. Yeah, I said the C word. I love cuddling with my person. When she gets in their bed all scantily clad, you know what I'm saying? Skin to
Mhm.
skin, the research behind that, right? The greatest level of oxytocin that is secreted for a man is not at orgasm. It is for a woman, but not for a man. Literally, it is after sex with skin to skin touch, holding hands, kissing. That is when the greatest level of oxytocin is secreted. We want
Well,
that bonding hormone.
we'll put a pause because I know. So explain the importance of oxytocin just in our normal biochemical makeup.
Right. It's the bonding hormone. It is what helps us. It pairs us. It's what brings us together. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That oxytocin is also correlated with serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine, all the things that make us feel good. But that oxytocin actually allows us to relax. As I said, going back, can I lay my burdens down with you in those moments? That oxytocin is that bonding hormone that allows us to relax. And yes, I'm going to say this word, it makes us feel safe. Imagine that. You had a bad day, you land in a dark room with candles lit, music playing, and you ain't trying to get it in. You're just trying to lay there and be with your person. You might get it in later on, but the ability to be with your person in those most intimate moments when you feel safe, right? When you can strip off the armor. And I've said this before on the show. I know I'm talking a lot. You think before Leonidas went to battle, in 300, what did he do? He laid his burdens down there with his wife. He told his wife, I'm afraid. That is my
Mm-hmm.
favorite scene in the movie. And what did she do? She took him in her bosom and laid down with him, right, in the safest, most secure, and most intimate place. And the next morning, he was ready to go to battle. Every human needs that. That's my diatribe, Doc.
No, but I mean, I love it. I mean, like I told you, I come here for this my free therapy session, even though I'm talking and doing it's my free therapy. But the challenge comes is that I think to create that, or even, now let me ask you this. How does a man ask for that? Because that takes a certain level of maturity to say, okay, I need to relate to my partner that I want safety. I want security. I want to be heard. And I think you had, and again, I'm terrible with names, but he was a psychologist, a couple psychologists based out of Charlotte, and had a book and talked about there were these four things that you have
Chris,
to have.
Chris
Yeah.
Matt. Yeah.
And he talked about those components. But and I love the show. It was beautifully orchestrated. But as I thought about it, and I tried to bring it up in a few men's groups that I had, and outside of being thrown out for being too soft, I think it wasn't that they didn't want to receive the information. It's just, how do I articulate that in a way and not be perceived? And I know some of it, but how do you do that? How do you take those baby steps to create an environment where you can get more bonding and more connectedness with your partner? How do you do that?
Yeah. Pick the right partner. I mean, literally, and I say this, and this is what it is for me. And I've had some really, really good women in my life. And we've talked at length about how I have just fumbled the bag on that, Yeah, I'm very fortunate in this season to have a bag, and hopefully, and hopefully to be able to take care of it. Um, but I think you have to be discerning about your partner. And I say this at this juncture at 54, to crash into someone, because literally that's what has to happen. You crash into something, and for it to work literally is an act of God, an act of Congress, all of the universe conspiring for the two of you to come together. That's what I feel like, because dating is an Olympic sport, because we are bringing, as you get older, you become more calcified. You become more calcified in your ways, and to crash into someone, to say, I can be open and to be my most authentic self, it takes time. And I think you have to do the homework on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That self-awareness, that emotional intelligence is really, really key, because you can't bring someone in your life that is not going to allow you to be your funniest, most transparent, most authentic self, right? To be able to be like, my thing is, I am Dr. Corporate all day long. I'm having to think through some of the most complex things in entrepreneurship and investment. I'm having to lead teams. I'm having to navigate the spaces, sometimes the only black man in the room. But when I when I leave that space, I want to come home and be able to joke with, I want to joke with my buddy, and that's the thing, right? That is the thing. Can you be Travis? Can you be Charles? And that has to be discerned very early on. Because if you got to be, I'm not going to get into, because I know I'm going to get in trouble. But
Don't get in trouble.
Look. But here's the thing, because I hear women say, "Well, I want to sit in my feminine energy. I want to live a soft life." And I'm saying to myself, when I hear that, I'm saying, well, damn it, so do I, because I live a hard life every day. You know what I'm saying?
We don't get that right. Come on now, that's why I said we gotta have baby steps, man. We gotta have baby steps.
No, I don't. I disagree. If a woman says to you, "I want to live a soft life," and she doesn't say, "Baby, I want to help you create a soft life too," that's not my person. Right? I want to create a space for you. That's not my person. That's not my person. If we can't create a space for each other, mutual provision is sexy. Yeah, I know I'm on it, right? Mutual provision is sexy. We are creating a soft life for each other. If I can't think about you and the things I do, and you can't think about me and the things that you do, we are not each other's people.
But that is it. I don't think we are, man. It's a good conversation. I'm almost going to hate for it to end at some point, but that conversation of kind of this structured, utilitarian ideal of growth, I think, and I'm saying I think it sounds great. And I think we go into it like that. But what those of us that's been in the game, the married game for a long time, it ends up to where it doesn't play out that way, but you learn how to navigate the space. And I'm trying to stay as safe as possible. You learn how to navigate the space in such a way that it ends up working. Because I think, not to say, when you say, and again, it's still me holding on to, a soft life. Sure. Like, I'm having the whole FIRE conversation, right? Financially independent, retire early. I'm having that conversation, But as I create the conversation, I create it for everybody. And part of it is the role that I play in the position I'm in. And I think when you have that conversation, you have the ability to expand and think about other people in your direct sphere. I'm not saying that women don't do that. I'm just saying that the order in which many women, and I'm not going to go about it, is a bit different. Meaning, sure, they want to help you, but that is not at the detriment of the direction that they want to go. Right. And I don't know if that's a bet, because when you look at, and I'm just thinking about how I interact with my daughters, right? Like I interact with them in such a way to say, hey, I need to create an environment or to help them understand, okay, this is how you navigate in this space. This is what you do. Now, whatever choices they make is on them, but understanding that there's no way that they're going to understand how to move in a space to still create a certain feminine vibe around them, but at the same time, be able to balance the level of aggression needed in this new normal, right? In this new normal where everybody's fighting for the same thing. And I think when you bring that back to relationship, all those soft skills that we teach our children, we teach our nephews, we teach our nieces, all those soft skills that relatively go unsaid are what they carry with them when they're married. Oh, well, I need to have this. I need to have all this. And again, as a man, my job is to say, okay, I need to make everybody good. I saw another reel today where they talked about, and I forget the pastor, but he said there are 8 people sitting around a campfire, you know, 4 black, 4 white, and they talked about the distribution of a fixed resource. And one approach was to share it with everybody, right? The other approach was to share it with the people immediately closest to you, make sure they're good, and then focus on everybody else. And when I think about it, that's the dilemma, right? I have this mindset that if I'm good, now it's my job to make sure that everybody's good. I'm not sure that every partner that is matched with someone else, not my partner makes sure that everybody's good. But I'm speaking for the brothers that maybe don't have that there's got to be some steps to make sure that, okay, how do I move him to a space where we're good, as opposed to let me make sure that I'm safe, make sure that I'm good, and then I'm gonna make, that's the challenge. And I don't know the right answer. And maybe the answer is in mindset retraining, because that's why I'm going through the book.
Well, my thing is, and I have a litany of research. Litany. I have a litany of personal research, and particularly in the last 5 years. And I'm sure that the women that I've dated be like, yeah. But I mean, research. I have dated a lot of women in the last 5 years. And what this I'm just saying, I'm not going to ask you why you laugh, because
I'm here, man.
Look, I'm just telling the truth. This is Dr. Corbett being open and vulnerable. And what I've learned about myself and what I've learned about my partner is that we both want to make sure that the other is taken care of. Right? It becomes this an innate thing. Like, and you go into this is that thinking that, what can I provide for my partner? If this is my person, what can I provide for my partner that is going to make them a better human? One woman said to me, is like, I want to be a supplement, right? And that, you think about all the things that we put in our bodies, that supplements, vitamin D, magnesium, C, all whatever it is, multivitamin. How does that supplement enhance your life? My partner should be a supplement to me, and I should be a supplement to her. We should go into the idea of partnership with the idea that we are supplementing each other's lives. That by entering into this covenant that we have with each other, we can make each other better. That without us, our lives are not the same. That we are such a huge addition to their lives that That's who we want to be with. That no one else can supplement this life than that person. Now, other people may have, and there's going to be this argument that one person can't supplement anything. However, right, but enough of that supplement that we give to other elevates who we are. That's what I want. And I'm speaking from Charles Corpus's perspective, and not having had it for a long time and knowing what that supplementation now feels like. It is a wholly different experience. And like I said, having dated a lot of women over the last 10 years, and particularly over the last 5 years since I've been here, it is like here's the research, and this is what's best for me. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I want to strip off my armor just like everybody else. I want to soft life. I want to come home to mac and cheese. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like mac and cheese and
real
toast.
Mac and cheese where it's baked. You talking real mac and cheese where it's baked?
I actually really don't eat mac and cheese.
I was about to say that was new for me. But I got the construct. I got the construct.
You just killed it.
No, I didn't. I was curious.
Just playing. But that's what I'm saying. Like I want to come home to crawfish and babe, what do you need? I want to come home and be like, here's $100 because I know that you need it today, and not think about it. Because I know I know that you're not exploiting my resources. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And I don't think about my resources being exploited, so I'm happy to share my resources with you.
Okay. I'll say this. So 2 things. So for the people listening, for the brothers, sisters listening and role reverse, however it is, and you tell me, because I'm listening and what I'm hearing is, just like the show says, an evolution of thought about relationship. And the reason why I bring that up is because many of us, I'm not, I started 20 years ago. My wife and I have been married 21 years. And my thoughts about relationship and marriage and what that meant has evolved over time, right? The version of me now is different than the version of me then. And I think that there are a lot of people that, and I love what you're saying. It makes total sense. But I think it takes a certain evolution of thought to get to that place. Like,
I agree.
What you're saying is, and then you have to find someone else that's willing to deconstruct everything from their environment that tells them to do the opposite of what you're saying. Because your approach, and I love it, that is an ideal, is not how many people at this stage in their lives are hardwired. Definitely not how many people are hardwired in their, 18 to 24, not in their 24 to 36, 35. Not in that. It is not until, like you said, you've had these life experience to appreciate, hey, I don't need X. I don't need Y. I just need to cuddle. I just need this. And I think, and then I'll couple that with a commentary for the folks listening to say comparison is the thief of joy. Like, yes, if you're happy in a place where you don't cuddle, y'all don't talk, y'all might high five and do whatever, be cool, right? Because that works for you. But if you want to move to a different space, the one thing that you have to do, you can't move by yourself. In Dr. Hammond's book, there's a quote, and I don't know who the quote is from, but it says, once you change your mind, make sure you change your environment. Because if you stay in that same environment despite changing your mind, you're either going to revert back or you're going to try to pull that environment into that new mindset. And that's one of the challenges with relationships. It's not just you. Like, you can make yourself better and do all the, man, I'm going to be purposeful. But then there's a whole nother person that you got to decide to get on that train with you or to take those steps with you. And so for the people listening that have a partner that might be recalcitrant to changing, or that may not be as open-minded to shifting their mindset, that's the challenge. That's the hurdle that I think many people do. And then they run into that thing to say, well, I've been trying to do it this way and it's not working, so I'm just going to deal with X.
Get out. That's not your people. I heard this quote. Look, I'm on one. I heard this quote. What you're not changing, you're choosing. You know, what you're not changing, you're choosing, and that's the thing. And I was like, look, I will not choose someone who says I want a soft life, and in return does not say I also want to provide a soft life for you. I will not choose that. I just won't, because that's not for me. I can't. Look, I will not break my back for you to have a soft life, and then I'm coming home. Look, I'm coming home and still breaking my back. No, and that's not a relationship to me. A soft life can be created by everyone. Mutual provision is sexy. Think about that. That's my thing.
Let that
And
be the title of this show. Mutual provision is sexy. I like that.
mutual provision is sexy.
Okay.
Let's get off this diatribe, because I know the revolutionaries be like,
No, no, no,
man,
no, 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 man. We got to stay here because I think that one of the challenges is, you know, marriage is great, partnership is great, but oftentimes there is an emotional imbalance, there is a financial imbalance. In some cases, there is a physical imbalance that exists that makes this mutual process difficult. And and again, you can give the psychological perspective. However, how do you overcome those imbalances, right? Because if we want it mutually, or is there a tiered approach to how you do it? Meaning, let's just say someone does X and someone can't do as much as X, but they still want to work together, because I'm trying to give those people who are in relationships and can't take the hard line that you're able to take, help them understand there is a pathway for wholeness. There is a pathway for oneness, and it may not look like Dr. Corpus. It may not look like, hey, it's all or nothing, right? Because a lot of folks don't have that as an option. How do they take those steps to create a concept of mutual oneness? And I'm gonna tell you, it's not gonna happen overnight, but what strategies do you have, or what can you pull from to maybe create that? Because some folks don't have that, what I'll say, intellectual, emotional, and even financial privilege to do so.
well, like I said, the work starts within. You have to ask yourself, what do you want? And I had to really ask myself, what do I want? And not even what I want, not even what I was willing to tolerate. What did I want? And I think that internal work is like, and then how do I show up? How do I show up based on what I want and what someone else wants? Can we find some congruency? And if we could find some congruency, being willing to say, this is not for me. Again, what you're not changing, you're choosing. And I think for both, whoever's in relationship, whatever type of relationship that you're in, um, you have to do the work. What are the non-negotiables that, will set you up for success? And, you don't have to be fluid, because it's your life. In my opinion, you have to decide what you will say. This is what I want to live: a fruitful, authentic, happy, wholesome life. I will allow myself to have someone in my life that provides this, and that I also feel comfortable providing for. And then it is actually, being discerning about who that partner is for you. I failed a lot. I failed a ton.
Mm.
I mean, I failed a ton. I mean, I have kept a list. Man, I'm being open. A list of it almost looks like a research project now. It's just dating, right? I'm just saying, but I'm just saying, it's just It's just dating, but being able to look back and say, okay, well, why didn't this work? Who was I in this? Why didn't this work? Or why did this work for this period of time but did not work? I could look back. I'm sure there's a psychological or sociological term, that goes back to this research. But I don't call it research. It's just dating. But the ability to look at the data and say, okay, who was I at this point in time? What was I looking for? Why did I choose, this person, and why? All of the things. And then to be able to say, okay, I know what I want to come into my life because I have refined it from the data so much, right? Because of my failures within myself, of allowing certain things and certain people in my life at those periods of time. I was able to refine the equation to say, okay, this is what I want. And this is who I also need to be to attract that person.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the key. And then not allowing anything that was outside of that to come into my life. Like I entered to this point in my life where I was like, there will be no new people. I will not allow any new people in my life unless they fit into somewhat of the box. And I really don't care at this point in time what people think about this, because when you find it, you will say, I waited this long to have this. And you will understand, at least in my opinion, when you crash into someone where you can have mutual provision to each other, where you can provide growth and stability and love to each other in these precarious times, when you can have that safe space, when you want to give of your resources and your time and your treasure and your talent, when you when you want to scream like up and down for their success and to be the shoulder when they're down, all of those things, that's your person. And if you can't do all of those things with your person, it's not, in my opinion, again, I'm saying this, that's not your person. Because here's the thing. I want my partner, my woman, to jump up and down as high as Key did when Peele won the Oscar. And you have all seen that meme. When Peele won the Oscar, he was jumping up and down. I want my woman to do the same thing because I'm going to be doing that for her. I'm going to be like, I'm right here with you. And I want to be like, when I'm standing up with all the accolades and all the things, thank you, baby, for supporting me. Thank you for providing that safe space, right? Thank you for making those blue lights red when the moments happen because you knew what was up.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I'm on one tonight.
No, like I said, this is what happened when we don't meet and get to chop it up for a long time. We get off on these existential discussions, and I think they're great. It's interesting, and I'll say this, and then we can jump forward before you get me in trouble. Before my wife and I got married, we did a course with my pastor from college, still a close friend of mine, Pastor Renee Brown. He's down in Baton Rouge. And the course was called Before You Say I Do. And it's a workbook that you work through and you say all the things. Now, granted, this was 20 years ago version of me, 25 years ago version of me or so. And you fill it in and you say all the things that you want and you do. And you're supposed to look back at it at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, just to see how you have changed in your thoughts about roles, responsibilities, and expectations of marriage. And when I looked at it, I think my wife and I revisited it maybe a year ago, and it was interesting. Like all the things that, not all, many of the things that I valued and thought were important in my 20-something-year-old self now aren't less important, but the priority of them on a list of things or the must-haves has changed. I think what you've been able to do is through dating is to say, yep, this is cool, but I'm gonna move it down here. This is here.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people that got married early, learning how to reframe, look back and decide is this still a priority? I think that has to happen as they start to reconstruct themselves and reconstruct the pathway toward this mutual support model, toward this mutual growth model. Because I think if they carry those things with them that they thought when they were in their 20s, 30s, and
Yeah.
40s, then some of those things might hinder because they don't, the version of me then knew I wanted to provide, but the construct of mutually building together, I'm not going to say was foreign to me. It's just how I envisioned it was way different. And
Yeah.
now when I look at it, okay, I have to repurpose some of those ideas in a way that's productive, where we both can yield into a system and feel like we both invested into the success of us as individuals. And I think therein lies the challenge for many of us that don't have the privilege of, having that, time to build up and to have that, as you said, research to determine the best outcome. You did a retrospective analysis of prior dating to determine the highest likelihood of major favorable events, and you've identified those
A
things.
very, very smart way to see it, right? Right, because
That's what you did.
nerdy ass Dr. Corprew, right, went went back and did an autopsy of his dating over the last 10
Mm-hmm.
years, right? And said, you know, how can I? What was I doing? You're right, and how do I get this right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the hourglass is actually moving very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, and I was tired of failing at this. I was tired of failing at this process, and I was like, if I don't solve this problem, I'm going to be alone. Because what was happening is that you're dating. I am doling out my resources to a litany of folks.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if we look at this from an investment standpoint, what I'm doing what I'm doing is that I'm doling out my resources to these investments that are not actually fruitful, that are not providing any return on the investment, right?
That is
Basically,
that is a
what
venture capital way to say it, but
that's
I agree. It makes sense objectively for y'all brothers
exactly.
that are numbers people. He giving you the game. He giving you the game on
So
venture capital dating. I see it.
venture capital dating. So you're not. I'm just doling out resources and no return. So there's got to be better diligence. I was like, okay, I've got to do better diligence on myself, and I've also got to do better diligence on how I'm even allowing myself to entertain and be attracted to folks who ultimately can't give me what I would want, and I can't give it to them because
Right.
we're talking differently. Our aspirations are differently. We don't see mutual provision as a ultimate goal for each other. And so, from a financial perspective, men bear the lion's share of dating financially.
Yes.
So if I'm thinking about that, but I'm also thinking about retirement, I'm also thinking about vacations in Nice on the French Riviera and the French Open, which I just came from, and all the things I like to do. I can't just be doling my resources out here willy nilly to everybody,
Right.
you know. But when you get someone who sees you, who sees the value of you, and you see the value of them, and you have mutual values, and mutual provision is one of your greatest values, it doesn't become doling out my resources. It means providing for the
Mm-hmm.
person that I love, because I also know that person is providing her resources, whether it be financial, loving, food, or
Right.
whatever, that we make each other better.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the safest space that you can be in. And what I think, if we get into the crux of this conversation, and you said, how do I have this conversation with other men? You don't. You just go out and do what you do. Your revolution is not just for you.
Right.
And so if people don't want to hear it, I ask brothers sometimes, like, how much money have you spent on dating? 150,000, $200,000. I won't even tell you how much I've spent. Right?
Man.
You know,
Yeah.
I think about that. Right? I think about the bags that I fumbled. Because I wasn't at this juncture. And Doc, sometimes I will get on myself because, like, damn, it took me to 53, 52, 53 to figure this out. Like, shit, I only got like 20 years, 20, maybe, hopefully 30, right?
Hopefully 30, 40. Hopefully 30, 40.
Hopefully,
Hopefully.
right? I mean, this is the peak. We're at the edge of the peak,
Yeah.
and not even the edge. We're at the precipice
Press.
of the peak. Right. And so I don't want to spend this life like I have spent the last 10 years of my life. I want to spend these moments of my life being loved and loving on someone, seeing the fruits of our labor grow where we can go and do the things that we've dreamed of, where I think about, hey, I want you to come here with me. I want you to experience this with me. Not me thinking, I'm going here. What's next?
Right. Right.
So I think if men are not really ready to hear it, they ain't gonna hear it. I know that from research. They ain't ready to hear that. So they choosing that life. I did. They ain't ready to hear that. But if somebody's ready to hear it, they're gonna go looking for it. That's my opinion. And when they go looking for it, they'll find it. They'll find us. They'll find you. They'll find Elijah.
I agree. I mean, I think that the beauty of this conversation is that it's juxtaposed at two separate ends of where people are, right? So you get me, 20 years in that concessions, reconciliation, changing and evolving with someone while they evolve is part of that process. You're not going to get 100% of wins. You're never going to have 100% of losses, but you find some equanimity in the middle, right? You try to balance that. Whereas on the flip side, you can have it all your way up to a point where you decide the best stuff for me is blank, blank, and blank. And then you can build that out. I think that when men listen to this show, men or women, this is relationship talk. You can choose either path depending on where you are. But ultimately, I think we could encapsulate it in a summative statement that just says you first got to work on you. You first got to know what you need and and I say want, but ultimately what you need. And then you can build out those other things will happen, because when you show up the way that is the most fulfilled version of you, guess what? You're going to attract other people. Now, you will attract some that you got to filter, but you'll attract people that bring those or that highlight those qualities or that, okay, yeah, that works. And there'll be some stuff that they'll bring that you'll say, you know what, man, I don't really like that, but man, I like a whole lot of this. And It's just about mixing and matching and finding that right blend to get both you all to that mutual provision space or that mutual provision mindset as you move forward. Man, that's a whole lot of relationship talk, man. I thought we was gonna just chop it up, but no, I feel better. I feel better from a.
Let me just say this. Let me just say that I want to move. I want to move this conversation. Super fan, super fan of the show. Commander Corey Doolittle. We had a conversation the other day, and he's been away from his family. He's been up in the Northeast, working on another leadership. He's another leadership certificate. And he said, I asked him because I was like, look, I'm gonna be in DC in July. I was like, you gonna be there? He's like, yeah, I should be. And he's like, I'll be back home, but I'll be integrating myself back into the family because I've been away. Right. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, the emotional intelligence to understand that I've been away. The family has been doing their thing without me. I've been in and out. To say, I'm assuming he's like, I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna just work seamlessly kind of work my way back into my family. So they don't feel like there's this big ogre coming back in to be loud and make decisions. I'm gonna just. He said I'm comparing. He said I compare it to when I, as if I were being deployed and coming back from
Right.
the level of emotional intelligence that takes. Because I hear so many women talk about, particularly men who are in the military, and how they cannot turn it off, and they bring that back into the household, and they cannot segment or segregate what happens on the battlefield or in the battle office, and then come home and be a husband and father. But to hear Commander Doolittle talk about that, I was like, wow, what kind of human are you to say I need to, with 2 girls and a wife, that I'm going to take my time to really ingratiate myself back into a family?
Mm-hmm.
That was powerful. And then I think about Colonel Jahari Hemphill, who will be leading an Air Force base down in Florida, Air Force Wing, who is one of, like you, is one of the people that I strongly admire. Right? You think about the people that I've surrounded myself, you, Corey Doolittle, Colonel Jahari Hemphill. But I think about his success, and he talks about his wife, Jen, who has her own thing as well, and the 2 boys that he's raised, and in his faith. But he talks about the power of his relationship with his wife, and that his succession in life has been because of the strong partnership, the mutual provision that they give to each other. And I'm almost envious because I've never truly had it, because I wasn't the person to give the mutual provision back when I did have it.
Mm.
And then when I was ready for it, it took me so long to get it. Like, it took me so long to get it, but to have it, right? And to see what it feels like. And I was on a podcast the other day, and is that, what does safety feel like? And you should know the answer, because I've said it so many times, Doc, is that safety feels like warm water.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in Nice last week, and the water was cold. But guess what happens, Doc, when you stay in cold water for a little while?
Start to warm up. You desensitized to it.
You get sensitized. And then when you get out of the water, you get back in, and still it's a little warmer than it was after the shock of the first time. And you kept getting back into that water, and finally I was fine. But that's what safety felt, because I felt safe in that water, that shock. And so it's so interesting to see when brothers can sit in warm water when they get home in their houses and strip off their armor to sit in warm water, and how successful they can be. Because what happens is, you both know, the mind has the ability to relax.
Mm-hmm.
Cortisol levels lessen. Right? Imagine that. I feel safe. I can strip myself. And what the brain does when it has the ability to relax. Think about the creativity that we have. Right? The ability to love. What it does to our bodies. The rejuvenation to our bodies when we can sit in warm water.
Mm.
So that's I see that, and I see it in those 2 men, and I see it in you. We spent a lot of time talking about this. And so look, this has been a masterclass. And look, Revolutionaries, let me just say this. This is Charles Corporal's experiences. This is Charles Corporal's opinions. This is Charles Corporal's research over the last 10 years of dating, where I have failed up until this point. But I'm a better man for it. And hopefully I left the people who have experienced better. Hopefully I didn't make it worse than if I did. I'm sorry. But this version of me loves this version of me, and loves being in warm water. And so I am grateful. I am grateful for that experience at this juncture of my life.
And that's a powerful affirming statement right there. That's powerful.
I mean, Doc, I want to end this conversation because it's 2 things. June is Men's Health Month.
Yes.
But June is also Pride Month. And it is important for me to talk about both of them. It's important that we, as I said on my 54th birthday, I talked about the 10 things that I had learned over the last year. And then I gave a little quip at the end, like the lanyard, as we talk about in New Orleans, the extra is that these conversations, right, that men are not having conversations that they need to have. I get a lot of calls from friends and fraternity brothers and of the like who have vulnerable conversations about their men's health that they're not having with other folks because they know I will talk about this with them.
Mm-hmm.
I will talk about men's health issues. I will talk about heart health issues. I will talk about erectile dysfunction issues, right? Because we've done the research. We talk about, all the things. All right. I will send them to research. I will send them to folks to talk about because Dr. Corporal has the knowledge and research on this. Too many men are not having conversations around their health. And we know as Black men, one, and as men as general, we do not live as long as our counterparts. And when you start getting down to men of color, our lifespans are even shorter because we don't go to the doctor.
Right.
Right? We're not eating healthy. We're not talking to a therapist. Right? We're not sitting in warm water in our homes. And so I employ folks, right? And I employ men and the people who love them to have critical conversations around health. What do you have to say? Because I know you got a lot to say.
No, as you mentioned, June is Men's Health Awareness Month. And one of the things last year I took up the mantle and really started to see before I put content out there to see where the holes were. And when I thought about it, it was a way to say, okay, what are safe places to go? The gym for a lot of men. And that's what really prompted me to reach out to one of my friends that's a psychiatrist and an amateur bodybuilder, one of my friends that's a pastor and a professional bodybuilder, and to create the new series on my podcast called Iron Therapy. And it's where we really talk about men's health issues, particularly those in mental health, while we work out at a gym. Sounded crazy, but it really was a way for us to just get in there, throw some weight around, and just chop it up. Killing two birds with one stone, as you can say, really demystifying some of the commentary around mental health issues, while at the same time working on our physical health, right? It's no surprise I'm a cardiologist. And as you know, you said it, the number one cause of death worldwide, but particularly for African Americans and communities of color, cardiovascular disease is huge. But don't forget about prostate cancer, right? Are you getting checked up, right? That's something else. Oh, don't forget about colorectal cancer. Oops. Oh, sorry. What about kidney disease, right? If you go through the list, we rank out top 3, top 5 in all of those conditions. And so the other thing that my team and I are doing are putting together a men's health checklist based on where you are age-wise. So from 12 to 18, 18 to 35, 35 to 55, and 55 and up. What checkup should you have? If you need supplements, what supplements should you have? And again, hopefully by over the next couple of weeks, we'll have that out so people can look. Now, again, this isn't medical advice. This is just for educational purposes only, but it should stripe up a safe place for you to have those conversations with folks like Dr. Corporal. Hey, Dr. Corporal, I had this, or talking to your primary care doctor, because the one thing that I think helps men, and it's helped me and Dr. Corporal, I can say thank you for this, is talking. I think a lot of times we keep it in our head and think, I can figure that out. And by the time we do, we've created so much damage, whether mentally, emotionally, physically, and in some cases financially, we've created so much damage, you can't bounce back. Right. So really, my goal for men this month is to really have them open up to each other in safe spaces and to create can improve their overall health.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, and make sure that you send us that so we can link it to the show.
Wonderful.
And definitely promote it for you. It is critical, because what I think about now is not just lifespan. I just don't want to live till I'm in my 90s. I want to live, play, and cuddle and all of the accoutrement that go along with that. You're right. Cuddle before and after cuddle.
Right.
for a long time, for a long period of time. So it's not lifespan, it's health span.
Yes.
How long can I have great health? And what am I putting in my body? How am I taking care of my mind? How am I surrounding myself with community? That's big. That is huge. Community is huge. And I even wrote on my look. I even wrote on my 10 things. I get lonely sometimes. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I get lonely. I'm an only child. My mother's an only child. My father's gone. And he was an only child. So I don't. I have a half sibling, but we don't really talk much.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my line brothers, but they're all married. I've got my friends from high school, but they're all married with kids. I find myself sometimes out there by myself. Finding community is hard. You have to be willing to take risks to find your tribe and to find your people. And I'm grateful. There were 25 people at my birthday party.
Man.
And sometimes I have to remind myself that you're not as lonely as you think.
Mm-hmm.
When you have people that love on you and say, hey, come do this with me. Come be a part of it. I want to give a shout out to my boy, Dr. Derek Greenfield, who will say, yo, let's go somewhere in the world. Let's find some adventure. We just came back from the French Open. One of my favorite places is Nice, France. Let's go hang out. So, brother, I love you. I appreciate you for always saying, let's get up and go. Because not everybody has the ability to do that, or the want, or the means to do the things that we've done over the last 8 years, traveling literally all over the world. So community is everything. Like I said, I really want to touch this. I'm going to go on a little bit of a diatribe, and I'm probably going to mess it up. But like I said, June is also Pride Month. And it's important for me to say this out loud, that this show and myself are an ally. Because I talk about every day at this growth and this outset of who I am, is that I want people to see my humanity. I want to see others' humanity, and I want the world to see the humanity of everyone. And what's going on in our world, and the desecration and discrimination and homophobia that goes on across the world, it bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me. And too many cisgender, in my opinion, too many cisgender heterosexual men of color are not out there standing up and saying, I'm an ally, I'm a protector, these are my people, they are my family. Because at the end of the day, we want people to see our humanity. We want people to stand up for us. We will need protection in spaces. So why don't we do that? And so I'm asking, sometimes that's the revolution, that we have to stand up with our privilege as cisgender heterosexual men of color and say, I'm going to take the armor. I'm going to take the arrow. I'm going to take the bullet for you, because I know that the world has been mean and unkind to you. And so it bothers me. It really, really bothers me when we don't step up. So I want to make sure that those people who listen to the show know that I am an ally and that I see your humanity. I see you. And I want you to know that as we celebrate Pride Month, that we here at What's Your Revolution are with you, because that's a part of our revolution.
And I'll, piggyback that with saying, wherever you see injustice, right? And I mean, and I know, and unfortunately I try not to watch the news because it's typically not good news. But as you see those things, speak up, right? Because silence, and again, I know this is to some degree does make you complicit, right? By not saying anything, it's almost like you say, well, it's okay if it happens to those people. And it harkens me back to a book called Night. And it was a Holocaust survivor's retelling of what happened and how he talks about this progression of, okay, first they bothered with these people. Then they bothered with these people. And before he knew it, he looked around and there were all these different groups that they had all lumped together as enemies of a certain group of people. And I think that if we're really going to move together, like you said, we got to do it together. I think that the beauty of What's Your Revolution, and you know I love this one, is if your revolution is easy enough or small enough for you to do it by yourself, you're thinking too small. And really to change mindsets and to change attitudes and to change environments and to change communities, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us working together to move to that better place and definitely that better mental space.
Yeah, we have to be able to see each other's humanity. We have to celebrate it. You know, at the end of the day, when we look in the mirror, we all have a human experience. Why can't we just celebrate the human experience and the diversity of that human experience? It is a wonderful thing to see when that happens, you know? So as we celebrate Pride Month, you know, as we celebrate Men's Health Awareness Month, as we celebrate humanity coming together in these deleterious times, my dear brother, right? It is fortunate that you and I can continue to have this space. Mm-hmm. And it is fortunate that we continue to have the What's Your Revolution show and the About That Life podcast with Iron Therapy coming on in there. All of the things that allow us to show our own humanity to the world, to show our revolutions to the world, because we ultimately want people to live better, more fruitful, more loving, more spiritual, more complete lives. As I said, nothing great in life happens without a revolution.
Right.
Revolutionaries, look, we love you. We love you. We love you. We look forward to the next season of shows, as you know, will be just as great or even better than what we've had for you over the last 8 years. I want to thank Dr. Travis Batts, my dear brother, my friend, my partner in crime, my thought partner, right? The brother that I can call upon to say, hey, look, hey, yo, this is what's on my mind, right? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I need to talk. And that's what happens. Men need to be able to have folks in their lives, whether they be their female partners or their male partners or whoever's in your life, to be able to call up and say, yo, I need somebody to listen. Thank you, dear brother, for listening. Thank you for always being an amazing friend. You pledged the wrong fraternity, but we won't talk about that. Revolutionaries, do your thing. Make sure you go out, check out the website, check out all the past shows from this season. Any questions, any thoughts, you want to reach out to me, Charles at whatsyourrevolution.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can find Dr. Batts where?
At drtravisbatts.com. Dr. Batts at drtravisbatts.com. drtravisbatts.com.
I got you. We'll talk to you soon, Revolutionaries.